everyone, and welcome back to the Leadership with a Twist podcast. I'm your host, Heather McGonigal, and I'm here with my co host, Barbara Schindler. And today we want to talk to you about owning your part. So, Barbara, let's get started and dive right in. We coach a lot inside of entrepreneurial businesses and support leaders inside of entrepreneurial businesses every single day. And this topic we're bringing to you has been coming up a lot recently in our one on one coaching. And Barbara, why don't you frame it up for us? We're talking about owning your part.
Yeah, so often we take on in our roles over responsibility, is how I think of it, right? Like, what's my part? What's somebody else's part? And truly, my part is the part that I have the authority of my role, the information that comes through the work that I do on the team to have the best thinking for that part, not necessarily somebody else's role and
Mhm.
part, right? Yet we kind of spend energy trying to do the whole thing or to convince others. And one of the things that we want to do is in knowing your part more is to work more deeply in your own role where there's fulfillment and you can advance in your role, but because you're not scattered with that loose, and it's not about boundaries between roles, it's about how we collaborate together
Yeah,
from our parts.
so maybe we should paint the picture as well that
Yeah.
in business, the thing that defines your role and everyone else's role is the org structure. Your organizational structure, the org chart, defines the roles of the organization. And if you're in an earlier stage entrepreneurial business, often when you're starting, it's like, okay, Heather, you do this, Barbara, you do that, and we're just going. We're building the plane as we fly. We're everybody's doing a little bit of everything, and roles aren't clearly defined. And they become more clearly defined as your organization grows, roles get defined, and then we start to build that org chart and get more clearly defined roles. Do you want to speak to that a little bit, Barbara?
Yeah, because you're absolutely right. That framework of organizational structure is essential. And what actually creates it, as you were describing the evolution of building a team, is the functions people are doing. Who's responsible for what? Who's the lead person for this part or that part? You have your growth strategist, you have your marketing lead, you have your program director. It starts defining an understanding of the angle that, if you will, of the part of the business. And the other thing we've been talking so much about lately, Heather, about you know, the homegrown wisdom, right? The knowledge and the skill build that happens with the action that people are doing, right? And so program directory versus marketing lead are going to be developing an understanding about the business and the clients and the current market from different perspectives. So it's not just having a title, right? It's what that represents in that organizational structure that's so important, so impactful in a positive ways.
Right. So this org structure gets developed and defined, and then we get to have role clarity and role definition. And as your organization advances, you should clarify these roles more, get your role structure more defined, and this should be shared with your team so that everyone understands whose part is what, who's doing what, and why. How are we functioning together? This org structure serves as a map that helps us all better understand who to go to for what and why, right? How are we functioning? This is a great and useful map for all of us to have. And
Absolutely.
this brings us to where we started in the conversation for the leader in the organization who is doing as much as they can with the resources they have in their role every single day, and they're working really, really hard on their part. And we want you to have confidence, leader, in doing your part, but not take over responsibility for all the parts, right? Barbara mentioned there's this tendency of over responsibility. And really, in balance, in healthy balance, you want to have ownership for your part. You do your work to the best of your ability, you complete your parts, and then you hand it off to others to do their part, and you trust that you did your part and then you handed it off, and then whatever other people do with their parts, that is their part. You've done your part. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And that's what
Okay.
we're talking about because, it the more you can focus and be present to the part that you're responsible for, and the more people can rely on you to be focused there is
Right.
going to help. We are going for outcomes together, that fine line of not just doing tasks, but you're going for the outcomes together. Ultimately, you're responsible together for that outcome. Let's
Mm-hmm.
not confuse that part. But what we're talking about to get there is everybody to focus in their own. Sometimes people say,
Lane.
like, my lane, right? My
Right.
lane. And that's growing on me. I'm okay with it now.
Yeah.
But it's like, but because it is like, if this is my piece, doing my piece, knowing where it's going next, so I can help set others for success. But
Definitely. I want
how,
to I want to emphasize that, Barbara, because
okay,
that was coming forward for me. We do
yes.
want to set one another up for success on a healthy team, on the team with a healthy culture that everyone wants to be a part of. We actually do our own individual parts with the awareness of wanting to set one another up for success. But that still means I do my part in such a way that when I hand it off, hopefully I'm setting Barbara up for success for doing her part in the best way possible. But I also now know when the handoff happens, okay, I did my part and I set Barbara up in the best possible
You
way.
can't control Barbara.
But I'm not trying to
You can
control
do what she's
Barbara.
going to
I'm
do.
also allowing Barbara and her department and her team now to do their part.
Yeah. Here's a magic special thing that happens when we start performing this way. We actually create the space and empower others to step up and do their part. Like, the magic that happens often is like we can spend a lot of energy, like, oh, let me make sure Barbara's doing it that way. No, she's supposed to do it this way. Wait, what is she doing? I spend all my energy like overseeing this thing that I let go of my part, right? And then instead, staying here and focused, that allows Barbara to figure it out and get there. Like, there's a little magic in allowing people the space to step up and be like, oh, wait, this is my part. This is my opportunity. And you'll be surprised in developing team how much people do step up into a space of responsibility that you didn't realize they were ready to do.
This reminds me of one of my favorite quotes that actually took me maybe a decade of my life to really understand. And it's from one of my acting teachers from an earlier career in my life, from Sandy Shurin. And it is, you're either controlling or you're powerful.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, I could see
Right.
why you could
Yeah.
spend a decade understanding what that
Yeah, I
really
didn't
means.
understand it when I met her and she said it to me because I was 17 years old. And so it took a long time for me to really get it. But I think in that scenario you were just describing, Barbara, we can micromanage others, and that's not powerful.
And we can't really control them. So when I'm in my own power,
Mm-hmm.
right? then I become empowering. That's the space I was talking about. Now
Exactly.
we empower others to be in their own power. And let's go back into a team structure. What people start gravitating to as the company, grows and the roles get clearer, right? As an entrepreneurial company, where those functioning pieces happen. Many times this is performance evaluation time for many companies,
Yes.
right? Or close to it. Some people do it now,
At
some
least
right
the
after the
time people are
holiday.
thinking about it.
Yeah, it's a cycle of a year type of thing.
Mhm.
But it's, in that performance evaluation piece, it's like really allowing them to see the clarity of how things are falling into place and encouraging people. Like, it's not about like, oh, now I need to take another responsibility. Oh, I need to do a different kind of task. It's more going more broader and expanding what you do in service to the outcomes in the parts you already play often. Sometimes people are taking other parts of responsibility or there's new
Yes.
needs, but developing in your role means finding more empowerment, having more critical thinking. Several people I'm coaching now, it's like, I need my lead person in that department to start doing more critical thinking, more strategic thinking, a little less of the doing, and start expanding because their knowledge is there because they've been working in that area. So that's kind of expanding is usually means more responsibility for the overall outcome or the cross functionality of things, as well as more responsibility to bring innovation, creative ideas, strategic ideas coming forward. And every level of role has that expansion opportunity. Again, clarifying this part and focusing more right where you are
I'm
on the team.
hoping for some people listening out there, it might be a relief to consider that you can be responsible for delivering your part without taking on the responsibility of being over responsible for all the parts. Because I know through the many leaders we've worked with together, Barbara, over the past decade, that leaders don't feel good when they're having that experience of having to hold all the strings to all the parts. They're feeling like,
Oh,
no, I have to keep a hold of this and this thing over here while also doing all of my role. I have my eye on this and that and the other thing, and like, oh, by the way, how did that thing go over there? I've got to check in on that. That's exhausting. And with the rate of change in business today and everything going on, and just the stress and pressure you have in your own life, it's too much to keep going like that. And it's not healthy. It's not how you can succeed long term. So, this is your invitation to let that go and lead another way. We want you to be responsible for your part, which means look towards that org chart. Look at your role definition. If you are about to go into your role review conversation for the year and you are a little bit fuzzy on what your role definition is, this is a great time to get clarity. What are
mhm.
the expectations of my role?
A big part of the purpose of that process, by
Yes.
the way.
And so, you're right, if anything is feeling unfuzzy, unfuzzy it. If it's feeling fuzzy, this is a great
I'm
time to
fuzzy. I love
unfuzzy
it.
it.
The new term. We'll have
You
to
can
think
quote
about
me
that
on
one.
that. It's a great time to unfuzzy it. Use this conversation to get clarity. What am I most supposed to deliver for this organization in my role? What are the expectations? Let me be crystal clear so that I can deliver those without feeling like I have to deliver everything. Because
Which is
nobody can deliver everything. Go ahead, Barbara.
what you're talking about, because those particular expectations in a conscious and well-structured or
Yeah.
business, those expectations are going to be defined by the parts that are most needed where you are in the team. in
Right.
the business, right? So those expectations, not like they're not out of thin air. It's like we expect you to do this and Heather to do that, and together that becomes an outcome, right? Like so there's something tied into that in how it works best. Go ahead.
And I just want to say, if anything is fuzzy, it's not your fault. It's not something wrong. Things can get fuzzy from time to time because the organization has grown or things have shifted in the business picture because of how the changes have been happening. And so it can happen from time to time that we have to check in and get greater clarity.
So when change, growth, evolution, new program, new marketing strategy, any of this, you're moving your structure into a creative mode.
Mm.
Creativity feels often and looks like a little bit of chaos. That
Right.
that fuzzy chaos is normal, and you always want to get it grounded into clarity. If we have too much fuzzy, we lose our
Right.
way, right? So in business, that's one of the pieces that we're talking about today, clarity of your role. What is your part actually helps the entire organization settle down and get grounded so the functionality can be there. And that really is, it's kind of like, what's the word? Not recovery, resilience,
Mm.
right? It's part of being resilient as an organization, as a team within a company. That resilience is that, oh, it's cloudy, fuzzy. That
Yeah.
cycle is normal
Right.
to
And
go through transitions
that's
and
what I
then
want to
ground it.
highlight. I want to normalize it so
Right.
that anyone that hears this and or might be experiencing, oh yeah, I have a lack of clarity. I don't want them to hide that. I want them to feel bold and courageous enough to raise their hand and ask some clarifying questions about their role and the expectations and know this is normal and you should ask questions and you should get clarity. And you know what? If you're confused, there's other people in your organization that are also needing clarity in their roles.
Yeah. And again, this is part of the natural cycles within a business. And so then you raising your hand and being like, hey, we need to make sure our structure and our team performance catches up with where the company is and what's most needed right now.
For sure.
Something's changed,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So yeah.
I think before we wrap this conversation, there might have been something else you wanted to share about definition of roles and org structure and role clarity from a recent conversation you had with the CEO. Is there anything that you wanted to add before we wrap for the day on this conversation, Barbara?
Well, the one tie-in that comes from what we had talked about coaching was confidence. So
Yes.
performance confidence comes from, knowing your part, not being, too over everything else. Where it's like, wait, what am I most responsible for here, so I can let it go once I do it. The confidence piece, the conversation that I was reflecting on from a coaching call was for the interaction relationships in the team itself. So if you're coming to a team meeting and people are tossing ideas and it's like having the role clarity of growth and strategy lead, marketing lead, program lead, right? Like so then we start knowing like everybody else, you get
Okay,
identified by your title.
so we're in the collaborative think tank in this scenario, and we have a bunch of people sharing ideas.
Yeah, and somebody might be newer in their role, or somebody might be just more confident to
Mm-hmm.
speak their ideas,
Yeah.
right? And it starts creating a more level playing field to think and talk together because it's like, oh, well, my title tells me, like, gives me the confidence that I have this authority of this part of the conversation
Yes.
to have more confidence to contribute my ideas. Is really
Right.
the picture. But that it's not the title tells me who I am and you are. It
Right.
tells me how we can work best together.
And if somebody's role, like I'll just say Heather McGonigal, program director, then I'm leading that area of the conversation. because that's my lane in the organization.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
other people may add to the brainstorming of the conversation, but this is still my area, my lane to lead in the conversation.
Sure. You can even think of it like marketing team researches, has been checking and watching client activity, and they come to the all team meeting with the CEO or the
Yeah.
next level directors and bring their idea forward. And then yes, there's higher business thinking maybe or some
Yeah.
industry thinking that others might contribute, but they'll come back and be like, hey, but you're the ones who are going to execute on this. You're the ones who have, the closest touch to what's happening in our company in this marketing area. And they often, they may not be the decider, but they will be like, we're going to go with your suggestion because of that, right? You have some higher level of knowledge and even
So there's a
authority over
there's
that,
a
how it's going to get done.
yeah, so there's a respect for the expertise and the authority of the the person's area of
Yes.
expertise in the business. And in
Well
that
said.
way, we're creating psychological safety for one another when we demonstrate this respect for one another's area of expertise in one another's lane. And
Yeah.
I think then we can, engage in brainstorming, engage in collaboration in ways that are respectful, and we add in and we welcome ideas, but we also respect, hey, this is the marketing department's, area of expertise. So we're also going to default to them, to their research they're bringing, their insight, their deep level of insight and research to our company and our
Yeah.
clientele, right? So we're going to
Right.
listen
Like
to what
not
they
everybody
bring.
has to go do that level is the
Right.
point. Like it's
Yes.
like, oh, you guys deep dived. You probably have the best touch point to help guide this decision, right?
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so this is a little bit about roles, why they matter, how role clarity can help your organization. If you have any questions, need any support for how this applies to you, your role, and your organization, you can hop on a complimentary coaching session call with Barbara or myself. There are links available under this video to schedule a VIP coffee chat with either one of us. We love to support leaders on their development journey, and we'd love to support you. Otherwise, we will catch up with you in the next episode of Leadership with a Twist. And we thank you for being here with us today and hope this was helpful. Thanks for being here with me, Barbara. Have a great rest of
Yeah.
your day. Talk to you all again soon.
Bye.
Bye.